Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode today. Come on in and get comfortable. Hopefully, we are streaming live, and you may or may not have heard our conversation before because I never know how Zoom is anymore. Oh my gosh, it's always so much fun to be in this space with my sisters every Friday morning. Come on in. We are so thankful because you could be anywhere listening to any crazy person, but you're here listening to us crazy. So we're glad that you're celebrating another episode with us today. And we'd like to invite you to take a minute, hit that love button and share button so that more people can come join the crazy today. My name is Jessica Dugas, intuitive mentor and energy healer.
And my name is Donna Brown, and I'm a holistic wellness practitioner. And this is The Breakthrough. It's the spiritual view for your soul and mind, where we dig deep in today's spiritual hot topics and inspire you with the stories of those breakthrough moments that will change our lives.
Absolutely. So, have you ever felt like ending your life, or even just felt like you wanted everything to go away? Well, on today's show, we are sharing the breakthrough moment from the inspiring Siri Ridenauer, who will be sharing with us about just that, her breakthrough moment when she feel like she wanted to just end it all. But of course, we have to get started on a lighter note today with today's hot topics, which means that it's time to welcome our panelists. So first up, we have our fabulous resident declutter coach and consultant helping us to create the space for these breakthrough moments in our lives. Everybody, please welcome Heather Clark to the show today. And we also have our always on point relationship specialist helping us to keep more love and passion in our relationships through these breakthrough moments. Everyone, please welcome the fabulous Lorianne Davis to the show.
Yay.
Yay. Oh my gosh. So I have to start off, first of all, before we get into to hot topics. First of all, I have to give our shout out to our other panelist, Tara Abrams, because she was one of my fellow authors for the Shine book, which came out 2 days ago now. And I think it was, I don't even know what time, but by 1 o'clock, we had hit international bestseller. So I am so excited about the Shine book. You can go to shine-book.com and check that out. It is an amazing collection of inspiring and uplifting and empowering stories. And so congratulations to our fellow panelist as well, Tara Abrams, who is not here today, but we want to give her some love too.
And congratulations to you, Jessica, because you were also in the book. So we got to give props to you as well. So
yes.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We have two bestseller authors in the house. Well, not today, but we'll have Tara next week.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I have to continue giving just a brief second of love this morning. I want to send some love to my my 24/7 PG group, who I promised I would say hi because y'all were watching. So I special shout out to West and Brandy and Zach and Nina and the whole crew. I love you guys and I appreciate you watching, even though this has nothing to do with our group and what we do. So thanks for coming and watching today. So what are we chatting about this morning for Hot Topics, Donna?
So today it's kind of a little bit of a spinoff from last week for those that caught last week's show. Today we're straying from our path. And so where Jessica and I kind of came up with this was from this little meme that says, and we wonder why we go mad. Kind of like Mad Hatter, because wasn't it Mad Hatter Day on Saturday? We are told from birth which path we should walk to be deemed as a part of society. Then we stray from that path. And when we stray from that path, we are deemed an outcast, left alone to wonder why being different is subject to punishment. So for me, that was like really huge because I always seem to get in so much trouble when I stray from my little path in life. And I am so off the beaten path, as my husband could tell you, coming to Ohio this week. It was really rainy. And so I kept praying for waves, the GPS thing, to take us on a different path, and we ended up on this farm road. And my husband's going, "Why are we on this path? I don't like this road." And I'm going, "But look at all this cool stuff."
Oh,
Oh my
that's awesome, actually. But those are the fun times too. Like you got to make the journey just as much fun as the destination too.
Well, and the other thing that was really cool about it was I love bridges, especially weird bridges or cute bridges or just bridges. I just like bridges. Let's just be honest. And so this path took us into Point Pleasant, Ohio, where they had two of the coolest bridges, and we got to ride on both of them. And I was so excited. I was going, "See, this is why we needed to go on this road that led to nowhere, so I could get to these two bridges." So anyway, it was really cool. But that's off topic. But I do tend to go off. I stray a lot. I'm a strayer. I'm a wanderer. So, but so I can relate to this because everybody wanted me to, be on this path, and I like all these other paths and all these other interests. And Jessica, we've talked about this before too, about how we have too many interests in our arsenal. We can't give enough attention to one specific area that we need to focus on.
Right.
And that's my biggest struggle, because I get very bored if I stick up to one thing constantly, and I need to like spread my wings. So
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's like that.
Okay, I'm not.
I think we all
No,
are. I think
yeah,
we're
I was
all
gonna say.
here
In my
together.
path.
No, we're
Donna,
walking on the same path. Just
Okay,
to
good.
be
The other
curious.
thing the other thing that came to me about this was that sometimes we're on a path for part of our lives, and then our lives change, and we really need to be on a different. That was what happened to me in life. I was perfectly happy with my path. Of course, it wasn't the normal highway, it was the off-beaten path anyway. But even with that, things changed, and then it was time for me to go down even a different road. And at first I was a little hesitant and a little resistant to that, right? Like I liked the path I was on, but sometimes we're supposed to have more than one in our lives, and I think that's okay. If we embrace it, we can find the beauty and the blessings in it, and we can enjoy it no matter what path we're on.
Well, I
That
think
might
it
be
also,
off topic too, but that's what was coming to me.
like with the upbringing, like, okay, so we're on a certain path. So it's your upbringing, what you think you're supposed to be on, but it's not really your path. It's what you think. Like, I don't know if you guys have all done those personality tests. Well, before college and all that stuff, I was a certain personality type, but then after, the past couple of years, I've done the exact same personality test, and I come up with something different, but it's the exact same thing. And so I talked to somebody, I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" They're like, "It could be the fact that you were answering it based on what you thought, based on what you grew up with." And that's exactly what I think this is too, is, our path that we're told, okay, go to college, go do this, get the house, get the kids, whatever. But then we're like, yeah, but we like that path down there. That actually gives me like, what I really want, what I'm like, and we're the type that, like you said, we want a little bit of this path, but then we'll go down to this path, and then we'll go down to this path. And it's all, it's all within it. And it leads back to last week's topic of we're just crazy.
Intuitive or both, or crazily intuitive.
Exactly. Crazily
intuitive.
And being
What's
crazy
your
might not be a
thought,
bad thing, right?
It's interesting because I felt that too, to where I felt like I needed to be on a specific path. And I think a lot of this really comes back to where we feel that judgment from other people as well. Because for me, like, I have felt that. And then like on being on a path where people didn't understand the path that I was on. And then like Lori said, also where we have those moments where we need to change direction. And then we feel like, we get judgment from that too, for changing our path, for like being intentional about it. And so a lot of it, I mean, in my life has come down to that, where I felt like, just a little bit of that judgment, like people don't really understand why I've chosen to either A, be on the path I'm on, or purposely change my path. And that's kind of the side that I'm on now, where a lot of people just don't get it. And so we just have to, I think that there's a discernment that has to happen. And this is sort of where I'm at right now too, in learning who we share what with. And, if we know that they're not going to get, our straying, then maybe that's not the people we need to share with that we've strayed, And so I think that's, that can be a fun part of this too. It can be a fun.
And I love the idea that maybe that brings up us being more conscious of not judging anybody else's journey and saying that everybody is where they need to be, whether they're off the path, on the path, trying to figure out where the hell the path is, like what difference
making their own path.
Yeah, like what difference does it make? They're on their own journey, and it really isn't, and this is the therapist in me, I guess, coming out. It really isn't our job to judge that.
Right.
It's our, if we choose, it can be our role to support them along that way. Or if they're going down some path that we're really not okay with, the values are different than ours, then we can walk away from that, but we can walk away from that peacefully. And so that's the peace lover in me too, right? But we don't have to judge it. We don't have to be upset. We don't have to fight them about it. We can just say, this isn't right for us, and just peacefully walk away.
Yeah.
Well, and if you notice, have any of you guys noticed, like, when you've gone down a certain path, this, the mad path or whatever you want to call it, the people that you would have met there were different than if you'd chosen the other path, like knowing that. And it's because of those people that you're going to continue doing those paths. And it's been awesome. Like, meeting you guys, you ladies and stuff. Had I not chosen the path to be a panelist on the show and stuff like that, never would have experienced half the things I have.
And I said that too. In fact, and Lori, maybe you can give a little insight onto this as well. But when I chose to sign on to the Shine book, I made a post about this yesterday. It's very interesting how this sort of revolving door of relationships has happened, where because of this path that I chose, because of this project that I signed on to, I've had three things happen. One, relationships coming to kind of an end, if you will, that weren't serving me anymore. Two is that relationships that were kind of stagnant started to kind of blossom again. And three, I've had people come in, brand new relationships come into my life that where we have all these synchronicities and all these similarities between our life paths. So do you see that a lot with clients, Lori, when people choose to kind of choose a different path or stray from their path, that their relationships really start to change?
Yeah, because you're putting out to the universe. One or two things is happening really quickly. Either you're vibrating at a higher residency now. So those people are going to drop off that don't resonate with that. And new people that are at this new level of where you are going to be attracted to you. And also it can be that, well, now I've put out to the universe that I have these interests and that I'm interested in this and that this is what I want. And the universe goes, okay, these people don't fit. They fall off. These people do. And so now there's this new synchronicity lining you up with people that will be part of what you're passionate about now. And so it makes perfect sense to me. That happens.
I think it's definitely, we all here have all kind of chosen our paths and strayed from our paths, and we're all kind of in a space where we've had these moments of other people not getting it, not understanding. And all that really matters, you guys, is that you are confident and happy in the path that you're on. And don't worry about, as long as you don't feel like you've strayed, what does it matter? What does it matter, guys? So we've got to get to our guest today. I'm so excited to have our guest on. And I actually met her, it's really not been that long. But she is she's an amazing person, and she is a soul care minister from Florida. Everyone, please hit that heart button and the love button and the like buttons and the happy buttons. And make sure you have shared out this video today, and welcome our guest, Siri Ridenauer, to the show. Everybody give some yays. Yay. Siri, welcome. We are so glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. So what do you think about your topic today? Have you ever strayed from the path that you're supposed to be on?
Oh, definitely. Growing up, I was always taught that you had to be a certain way, you had to get good grades, you had to walk this path, be the perfect person.
Mm.
And I found out that that wasn't where I needed to be. I needed to be a wild child.
We don't know anything about that. Yeah, I mean it's I think we've all kind of felt like that at moments where we just feel like, you know, everybody wants us to be doing something different, but we feel like that wild, like I just gotta be doing something else, you know, and we have to follow that. So I think we're all on the same page with that one. So Siri, you're talking, I love that our topic from last week with Tamia really ties into so much of not only your current story, but the story that you're going to share with us today. And I know that this is also a story that many of us can relate to, where we just feel like we're done. We can't do life anymore. And so I would love for you to start out today by taking us back to what life was like for you before this moment.
Well, like I said, I was always taught to be the perfect daughter, the perfect granddaughter, perfect wife, perfect mother. Basically giving up my own identity of who I really was. And I was married in a relationship that the last 10 years, I was married for 23 years. The last 10 years, it was like being married to my big brother. There was no feeling, no intimacy, nothing there. And in trying to be the perfect person, I lost who I was. And I was to the point where I was completely dead inside. We used to go to Native American gatherings, to powwows. And as soon as we hit reservation ground, it was like a cleansing for me. I'd cry for a couple hours. And this last time I went, I stepped on reservation ground and nothing happened. I was in conflict inside, thinking about leaving my ex-husband, thinking about just giving it all up. My kids were grown. I never wanted to leave until after they were grown, because I didn't want them to have to go through what other kids went through, you know, with going through divorce and split custody and all of that. So I never wanted them to have to deal with that. So I stuck around until my son was almost 17 when I left, almost ready to graduate from high school. And we went to this powwow. And like I said, when I touched the reservation ground, I felt nothing. When we danced Grand Entry, usually when the drums started, it would resonate in the center of my being and just flow out. I felt nothing. And so on the way home, I looked at my ex-husband and I said, did you enjoy this weekend? And he says, yeah, it was okay. I said, good, because by the time we get home, you're going to hate me. Well, he reached over and turned the radio off and he said, why? I said, because I'm leaving. I said, I feel dead inside. I feel like there's nothing left. He never asked me why. He just reached over and turned the radio back on. Never asked me why I was going to leave or anything else. And I looked at him and I said, you have nothing to say? And he says, nothing to say. You've made up your mind. I said, no, not until this moment. He even helped me pack up and leave. Helped me move. After that, I spent about 6 months drunk. I'd start drinking from the time I got up in the morning. We had a ABC Liquor across the street from work. During my lunch break, I'd go over and get the little bottles and pour it in my soda at work. After work, I'd start drinking until I either passed out or cried myself to sleep. I got to the point where I looked around and I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I've had it. I'm dead inside. There's nothing left. Obviously, I'm not worth anything, you know, because nobody cares. I knew my kids cared, but, you know, I knew they'd be okay without me. I had started going out and singing karaoke again, and a couple of people from work had taught me into going out and singing. So this one night I made up my mind that was it. I had enough. I went out with the sole purpose of getting drunk and pulling out in front of a semi on the way home. Luckily, I had a guardian angel that night. The one young man that had taught me into going out and singing, he was 24 years old. Will always mean the world to me. I even have his name tattooed on my chest because he literally saved me that night. Anybody to look at me would never know what I had in mind. I was laughing, I was carrying on like nothing was going on, but he was able to see into my soul. And he was a pretty boy, always asked, you know, had girls literally fist fighting over him. He was that kind of guy, sweet, you know, everything. He asked me to dance, and he'd never done that before. And here I am, 350 pounds. I had long gray hair, looked like I was in my 60s, you know, and we were on the dance floor, and I asked him, I said, why do you want to dance with a fat, old, ugly woman like me when you've got all these beautiful girls literally having fistfights over you? And he stopped me dead in the middle of the dance floor. He says, I have never thought of you that way. He said, you're a beautiful woman inside and out. And then he kissed me. And it wasn't anything romantic. But in that moment, something snapped inside of me and said, wait a minute. Here's this 24-year-old boy that thinks I'm beautiful. It's obviously not my problem, but my ex's problem. And at that moment, I started turning myself around. You know, I began going through classes and stuff to build my self-esteem. I had other young boys at work that would flirt with me and everything, and I'm like, wait a minute. You know, obviously they're seeing something I wasn't seeing. And so over the next few years, now that's not where everything turned around, because I ended up getting into the need to be loved and accepted and feel worthy. I ended up in 3 very abusive relationships. And it was about 4 years ago that through the Transformation Goddess talks that I ended up hooking up with a lot of the women who had been through a lot of the same things I had and started transforming my life.
It's such a amazing thing that just this one person can be such a catalyst for just changing your mindset a little bit. And I would love to ask you when he because we've seen other situations like this where someone will feel like they're just done, and people will talk to them and it doesn't seem to make any difference. Do you feel like, Siri, that you had anything inside of you that was you, like that was you being part of this breakthrough moment, that wasn't just him saying something? Because we've seen that before, right? Where someone will be really down and they'll have people trying to lift them up, but it doesn't seem to make the difference. What do you think you had inside of you that helped, that took this information and used it?
Well, obviously there was a little spark left in there because otherwise what he said wouldn't have made any difference. So there was a little spark left in there. I grew up in a conflicting household. I had one parent that was always encouraging, and the other one that was tearing me down all the time. And I lost my father back in '88, and he'd always been the encourager, my best friend. And I guess I didn't want to disappoint Daddy. Basically, it was that little spark that, that was left in there that turned everything around.
Mhm. That makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure.
So when you were in the karaoke, you were actually with everyone, having the great time, having whatever. Was there any time before he asked you to dance that you noticed that he would just kept looking at you, or would look at you in a certain way, or that he would watch you in a sense, almost like as if you said the guardian angel, as if it's, watching the way you acted, watching if you were going to go to the washroom, did you come back? Watching those, just he kind of knew that something was up?
I think he really did. I think I actually feel that he could see into my soul. It wasn't, we were just good friends. We were friends from work, and there was just something about that night. He was always keeping track of where I was. And he could actually see into my soul and see what I had planned, even though on the outside, nobody would have known.
So do you think that, go ahead, Jessica, because I can't.
It's okay. It's all right. Do you feel like, that, how were I would love to know how your children were handling things as you were going through stuff. Cause I know that you didn't want to make the changes because, and I completely, as a mom, get that, to where you feel almost like you can't move because you don't want them to go through things. That was very similar to my story as well for a while. How were they dealing with things, even though they were older and adults, with you in this sort of space?
Well, both of them, the first thing they said to me, "It's about time, Mom," because they knew that I wasn't happy. My daughter handled it very well. My son, on the other hand, very angry that I would leave. Not so much leave his father, but leave him. Even though he was almost 17 years old, almost graduating, he was just a few months from graduating from high school, he felt like I abandoned him. And so there was a lot of anger there, a lot of bitterness, to the point where we had a falling out one day where I got a text at work and said that he was going to kill himself. And by the time I couldn't even go back to work. I had to leave. And by the time I got to his house, he was sitting in playing video games with his friends. Well, that made me angry. And I'm sure anybody driving down the road were laughing their ass off because I was beating the hell out of him, and he's 6'4" and weighs 350 pounds. And here I am 5 foot. I'm sure anybody driving down the road was laughing, but he told me, you left. And I said, what happened between your father and me has nothing to do with you. You are my son. You are my baby, a 31-year-old baby, but it was a lot of anger, and he had to deal with his father on that end, watching his father every day. This man that didn't care enough to even ask me to stay, supposedly breaking down after I left, and he had to deal with that end of it. But now, after several years, of living with his father, he understands. And every time something happens, I'll look at him and he'll be complaining. I'll say, and see, now you know why I left.
So I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. You mentioned that after that night, things did, that really wasn't the turning around point, that there were some relationships that were abusive relationships in there. And I run into that in my work with clients a lot. And so I would love for you to share with people a little bit about what was sort of a turning point for you there when you kind of said, this isn't better, this isn't right, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Because I think that there are so many people maybe that are listening that might have either gone through that, or they're in a relationship, even if it's not abusive, but they're in a relationship where they're not being valued for who they are. And you could share.
Well, it took me 2 years to even get involved with anybody after I left my ex-husband. And he was a charmer, total narcissist. Everything was wonderful until we moved in together. And then all of a sudden the emotional and mental abuse started. And then it ended up being physically abusive. And that's when I left that relationship. Turned around, moved in with a best friend who, one of the guys that I talked about, flirted with me. His girl had left him with 2 children. So I moved in with him to help take care of the kids. There was some feelings there. Supposedly I found out that I was being used. Basically, he wanted me to work so he could stay home and take care of the kids, and he didn't have to work. So there again, the emotional and mental abuse, push me, pull you. I love you, but I don't love you. And it was just constant. And I went through that for 3 years. I learned real quick with the last one though. That one was about 6 months, and he started in with his narcissistic garbage, and I sent him to the curb. Unfortunately, it wasn't quick enough. He ended up stealing about $20,000 worth of antiques and jewelry and stuff like that and pawning it. Found out after he left that he was actually a cocaine dealer, that I didn't know. This is how naive I was. I would go to work. He would take my vehicle, drive to Miami, pick up the drugs and bring them back here and sell them. I had no clue as to what was going on until after I kicked him to the curb, and I started getting letters from the transit authority in Miami saying, hey, you owe us for these tolls. And I'm like, I wasn't in Miami at that time. I was at work, and I had to fight the transit authority and prove to them it wasn't me. I wasn't in the vehicle. I was at work that day. So, and after that, it was like, you know what? I've had it with men, period. No more. Never again. No. Until 3 years ago, my high school sweetheart found me after 37 years, and we ended up getting married, and I've never been happier in my life. I wish my dad hadn't broke us up back when we were in high school, because we were together for 3 years, and the first time he brought me home from school in the car, that was it. My dad sent him packing with a threat with a bullet, and literally broke us up. And now I can't live with regrets. Yes, it'd been great if my ex-husband had been honest with me back. He told my daughter 5 years ago that the only reason he had children is because to make me happy, and his obligation to my happiness ended when they were born. So if he'd have been honest with me back then, when my dad passed, I'd have moved back home, and Herb and I'd have been together then, and life would have been a whole lot different. But then I wouldn't have my 43 kids and all my grandkids and all of that. So that's where I finally found my happiness, and somebody that supports me 100% in everything I do. thinks the world and all of the sisterhood that I belong to. I mean, he's grown a lot through what I'm learning and teaching. He's grown too, because when he first got here, he was very angry and bitter, and just
It's
like
amazing how this ties into the whole path that we were talking about in the hot topic. Like okay, I know we say they always, make sense every single episode.
We do say that.
Oh my goodness.
And every single episode, we're still shocked that it happens.
but it literally is. So you had a path with your high school sweetheart. Your dad stopped that path. You went on a different, you were forced on a different path.
forced on, yes.
And you got into but your now path has come back. So that's like that's crazy. That's awesome. Sorry. It's just really funny because as I'm hearing this and listening to this, I'm visualizing the path that you got, you were on a path, but then you got knocked off that path, but that path came back. And now because of those experiences from, all your other relationships, the 2 children you have and everything, and now you're back with your sweetheart, it's so amazing what, life experiences you've had in order to grow more with the husband that you have now. It's just awesome. I just had to say that.
we always say there's no regrets because we both went through a lot of experiences, a lot of them parallel, with the abusive relationships. And he went through the same thing on his end as I did on my end. And it brought us back to where now we can stand strong together.
And you appreciate it more too, I think too. And together, since you both were on had those abusive relationships, you appreciate each other and know, I don't want to do that to you and I don't want that to happen to me. And we both are. So that's awesome. That is fantastic. I love this.
Yeah, I like this too. I just have a question. I think I can get it out now. So I'll try, Jessica. So my question is, through all of this, and as you were going through one abusive situation after another abusive situation, did you find that you had quote unquote tools to kind of help you? And what kind of tools do you feel like that you were able to use to help you stay on that track of still trying to live a life and bring that dead inside feeling up and out to get your life back? Does that make sense?
I'd have to say my kids, my biological kids, all of my kids, they were there for me through all of it. My son and I had our ups and downs through it all, but my daughter was there with me from the beginning to the end. I literally had to move back in with her after leaving the relationships, and she has always been there for me. She, like I said, when I left, she says, "It's about time, Mom," and she still has to deal with her biological father on a weekly basis because she does his bookkeeping for his business and stuff. But my husband now legally adopted her. We come home from our honeymoon and she says, "I've been thinking." I'm like, uh-oh. And she told him, she says, "I want Dad to adopt me." And I said, "Well, you're going to have to go tell him that. I'm not going to tell him." And so I literally took a box of Kleenex and 2 beers out, and I gave him first beer. I said, "Drink it down." And he said, "Okay." I said, Raven wants to talk to you about something." So he drank the beer down, and I handed him a box of Kleenex, and he kind of looked at it like, what's this? I said, "You'll need that in a minute." And I said, "Raven wants to ask you something." He says, "What is it, baby?" And she says, "I want you to legally adopt me." And he looked at her and he says, "If it takes my last dime, I will make it happen." And so that was in May, and in October, she became his legal daughter. So 23rd of this month, she celebrates her 3rd birthday, so to speak.
That is so awesome. That is really, that's a hallelujah to the whole, brainstorm of what all went on with you and the kids. So I would say that the biggest thing for you was the support group. is having that support of the kids. And I think through several episodes that we have done in the past, that seems to be the theme, is that support group is very, very important. And if you don't have that, it's very hard to keep on that forward track.
Yes.
So, yeah, I like that.
So you've mentioned that you're very happily married now, and everything has come full circle like it was supposed to. And I would love to know maybe some of the other things that you are learning about self-love, because I know that that's one thing that you've had to kind of you had to get reconnected with, if you will, during that breakthrough moment and after. So what are some of the things that you're learning about that, or even tools that you're using to stay in this better place for Siri?
I haven't had any problem with any of the depression or anything for several years now. Well, at least 4 years. When I had the breakthrough going through the goddess talks. Sorry, I have new teeth. It's I'm still getting used to them. The goddess transformation talks. Listening to the stories, knowing I wasn't alone, and the encouragement of people like you. You guys have been such an encouragement with me, being part of the sisterhood. I do my mantras. I started out looking at myself in the mirror every day and telling myself that I was enough, and I was a badass, and I was worth it. And there came a day when I didn't have to tell myself anymore, because I believed it in my heart. So I start out every morning as a badass. I've overcome a lot.
I love that. I love it. And I think that's another thing we've talked about on the show quite a bit too, is those affirmations. So many people think they're silly, but they can be, just powerful. You just have to make it a habit, right?
Absolutely.
Well, not just saying the affirmation, but feeling it. It's associating that feeling with it, and actually, understanding that, repetitiveness of it, and understanding that there's other people. You're not alone in this situation, because I'm doing these things, and it might look silly to you to do it in front of a mirror. And how many times I was looking in the mirror, I'm looking at myself going, "You're really going to do this? This is really going to happen?"
Yes.
And not expecting it to say the affirmation once or one day or 2 days and for it to happen. Like it takes that consistency of saying, I'm reprogramming the wiring in my brain. And that doesn't happen overnight. But if I continue to do it, it works. And I think looking for people like Siri, thank you so much for being brave enough and sharing all this, because it helps other people to say, well, if it worked for somebody, and look at where she was and where she is now. And that having other people to be brave enough to share those experiences, I think gives other people that confidence and that support. And maybe the little oomph and push they need to go, okay, I'll go in the mirror and do those stupid affirmations one more time. Right?
I think that was me. Like, you just said what I was when I first started.
Well, I thought she was going to come on and say that she said one affirmation and her whole life changed.
Oh God, no.
I'm disappointed.
Pixie dust. I always tell my clients, if I had pixie dust, I'd use it, but I don't.
I actually have my affirmation on my wall, like on my mirror in my bathroom, because that's the one room I use every single day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
3 years it took of saying it before I finally believed it.
How long?
3 years.
3 years. So the very first time I ever did affirmations, I yelled at myself and was like, "What are you doing? You are none of this. Do not believe." All that ran through my head. So I'm just curious, when not sat down, but when you went up to the mirror, because mirrors I think is very important to really bring it home. Did you have that kind of experience, or were you okay with the words that were coming out of your mouth? Because I was angry with myself, and I was like, no. You are not a badass at all.
Like I said, it took 3 years, and it took 2 years of my husband telling me every day,
Yeah,
him
yes.
telling me you're beautiful and you're worth it and everything. It took 2 years of him telling me before I finally. Now I look, and when he says it, I say, I know I am.
Yay.
That's it. That's it. I would love for you to finish out your segment today, sharing with everybody a little golden nugget that they can take home if they are in that space in their life right now where they feel like they're just done. They're just done. What can you give them to take home?
There's always a spark left inside. No matter how dead you feel, there's always that little spark of spirit inside, and you just got to figure out how to ignite it. Always seek out somebody when you're feeling that way, because you never know who's going to be able to ignite that spark. Don't give up. That was the whole thing. I could have gave up, and then I wouldn't be where I am today.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think so many. I want to give a quick hello to Susan and Linda and Princess and Jamad and Brandy and Nina and Tara and all of the fabulous people that we have watching today, and the majority of everyone that I've seen pop on. I know you all a little bit, and I know that everybody that has watched this show or been involved with this show, everybody that has found their way to this show in whatever way that is, you've got that little spark. And I've seen it in everybody. And so I think that's a great thing to leave everybody. Siri, thank you so much for being with us today and being so vulnerable and sharing all of these things with us and our audience. And I think that you've changed something for somebody today.
It's my pleasure. I hope so. That's the passion. My passion is to change one life at a time.
Awesome.
Give everybody hope.
Awesome, Siri. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Namaste.
All right. So crazy. And it's so funny because it's always funny. Before the show, and we were talking about how the relationships change and new people come into your life when you experience different things. Siri and I connected, like I said, it wasn't really that long ago, but as I was kind of going onto a new path in my life, and we have so many synchronicities between and similarities in our stories. And so it's just I can resonate with so much of what she said, and it's crazy. So I think my biggest golden nugget for me in Siri's story is just that knowing that we're not alone, that we're not alone in what we're going through, that so many people experience these things. And I think that that's an important thing to keep with you. If you get into those moments where you feel like you are alone and you've had enough and you can't do it anymore, know that there is somebody out there that's going through it the same as you. I mean, it's important.
We're not alone, and we need a support group. For me, and that keeps being hammered home almost week after week after week, is that support group and how important that support group is. And once again, I cried through the whole show, so I know y'all are shocked about that.
Well, don't worry. I had tears in my eyes too, so I was with you on this one. This one was the first one so far that has got me to that point. Yes.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I totally understand.
And I'm in a hotel room, so I don't have Kleenex, and my husband's behind me. And so I'm trying to get his attention to go, I need Kleenex. And he's trying to get my attention to tell me that he's waving it at me.
We just wanted to play charades. That's all.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's all.
So, but yeah, and I like that she got back with her high school sweetheart, only because I'm married to my high school sweetheart. Well, actually, I'm his high school sweetheart because I'm older than him, but I was graduated when we started. But I think that it's really cool that through this whole process, she still ended up back where she started from with her high school sweethearts, and that he is a very big support team for her, and that he does say things like, I love you, and now you're pretty and you're beautiful, and I think that's very important for on both sides, whether it's the guy or the girl. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in our day to day that we forget to even do those little things of, well, you look beautiful today, or you look handsome today, or whatever. So what was your takeaway, Miss Heather?
Honestly, just the fact of that so the part that got me in the tears was when she literally painted the picture of her at the karaoke night. Her, she knew exactly what was going to happen. She knew, and it was just, as she's saying it, I was visualizing it. And that was the part that I was like, whoa. And I'm like, that's crazy that somebody got to that point and they were able to come back from that and do all the stuff that she was able to do since then. Yes, she had some learning lessons in between 3 different, relationships that she, but with everything that she's done, it only made her stronger to be with the guy she is with now, to live the life and to choose the choices she has now to show her kids and to whatever. So it was just such a crazy like visual that I got with that. And I was just like, wow. Like, I'm amazed at that, that gentleman that went and saw that in her and said something, that he actually said something and did something about it. Because some people just don't, and then it's too late.
It gives you that, don't give up on people. It's never too late to say something, to give a hug, to say you're sorry, to say a nice word, to hold the door open. It's never too late for any of that, because it takes that second that can just get somebody's, spark to ignite, right?
Yeah.
That's what came for me through this. I mean, a lot of things, but that was the one thing that really stuck with me, is that we never know when we are just making a connection with somebody, even if it's just the cashier at the grocery store, that we look at them and we smile and we ask them how their day is, and we somehow care about them a little bit, that you just never know that niceness in the world that you're putting out there. You don't know. I bet that, well, she may have told him later, but he could have done something like that and really never even known the impact that he had. And like, how many times in life could we maybe have an impact on somebody and we might not know the impact we have? And so how important it is to go out about life trying to radiate as much as we can that love and that kindness to people, even people that we don't really know very well. If you see somebody, like I said, at the grocery store or something, that the person in front of them gave them a hard time, like, can you go out of your way to be kind? And you don't know. Maybe it's just a tiny little thing, but maybe it made their day. Maybe it saved their life. So that was, and then if we're doing that for strangers, what does that same amount of kindness in our relationships do to our relationship and do to the people that we love, to our children, to our partners, to, think about the impact we can have on other people just with small things.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also like she said too, when she said nobody would have known that I was in that state. And that's the other thing too, is we don't know usually that people are down and out, or usually the ones that are laughing the hardest tend to be the ones that may be struggling the most. And so I think it was, she kept honing in on, you wouldn't have known that if you saw me. I was laughing, I was caring, I was having fun. But that guy, he was able to see past all of that facade that she was trying to put up. And so again, Lori, that goes back to, if you just show everybody a little bit of kindness, that little bit doesn't take much to ignite that spark, as she likes to call it, to bring that spark back to life and let everything just kind of, well, there is somebody out there that cares, or that's willing to give me a smile, or hold the door for me, or say a kind word.
Or if somebody's sharing that they're going through a difficult time, instead of judging them or telling them what to do, which is a lot of times what people want to do. Can we just listen? Can we just give them kindness? Can we just tell them that they deserve more and that they have the right to their own path. We can go back to that path thing, right? Instead of trying to tell somebody their path is stupid or it's wrong, what if we just said, well, maybe it's not the path I would choose, or maybe I don't really understand exactly what you're going through. But as a person, I respect you and I honor you and I see the good in you, or whatever it is, you know, that your words are.
Right.
Just making that connection with somebody could mean a lot to some, you know, to that person.
Mhm.
We don't have to agree. We don't have to understand. We don't have to think that they're making the right choices. Sometimes, you know, when for those of us who work with clients, you know, sometimes clients you can tell will worry. They're going to tell you something and they think that you're not going to think they're doing the right thing. And maybe you don't. Maybe you know that it's, you know, they could be doing something that would make them happier. But our job really is to say we're here for you, to support you, and not to judge
And to
when
listen,
and how
to be
you
that
make
ear,
those.
that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's not it. And what is a gift that we can give people to just be there for them and say, you know what, if you know that you need to make this change and you're not ready yet, we get that, right?
Right.
And when you're ready, you will.
Yeah, and when
I
you're
think-
ready, I'm still here.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm here in the meantime.
I think it's important too for those of us for anybody who's been on this side of feeling like other people don't understand you, because I know sometimes if we share, you know, something about that we're going through and we feel like, well, they don't understand, that doesn't mean that they aren't going to be there for you, and it doesn't mean that they don't love you, it doesn't mean that they don't like you, it doesn't mean any of that. It just because they may not understand. So I think it's important to keep that in our minds too, if we're ever in that space where we feel like there's just no point, people don't understand. Nobody lives in your shoes anyway. Nobody lives in your shoes anyway. So people aren't really ever going to 100% know, right?
Right.
And so I think that I love that you're on this show today, Lori, because it really the relationship aspect of all of this is just an interesting one. We could do a whole nother show on that. It's just
It is. And you know, if they had gotten together in high school, we don't know who they would have been. And maybe
Right.
they wouldn't have gotten
Right.
together. Maybe they wouldn't have stayed. Maybe they both needed to go through what they went through so that they could be the people they are to have the rest of their lives together, loving and supporting each other in this way. So there's so much that we don't sometimes understand, that maybe this was the right time. That was what I was thinking too when she was talking about that they finally got back together, and they could have been maybe together all along. And I was thinking, yeah, and maybe you wouldn't have been, because you wouldn't be who you are now.
right.
And so you might not, or maybe you'd have had a marriage, but it would have been a mediocre marriage because you wouldn't have really appreciated each other. Like there's so many things about that, that they're perfect now and they have all of this opportunity to share this now. We don't know that would have happened.
Yep.
So
That was the thought I had too.
did you?
When you
Yeah.
had to go through all of this to get
Mhm.
to get to this point, to have that relationship and to have the type of relationship that she seems to have.
Yes. Yeah.
So an ending thought is that maybe when we stray from our path, we haven't actually strayed at all.
Right.
True.
Bring it up back,
Oh my
Bring it back to the path.
back to the path.
Back to the path.
Oh
We're
my
always on
goodness.
it.
But
Whether
you
we
always
think we are or
find
not.
this
That's
stuff
right.
off the path, don't you? Everything that you find that's so cool is never on the path. It's always
Yeah.
when you stray.
Or
That's
you-
just
Yeah,
my
maybe
thought.
that's it. Maybe we're just never on the path at all. We're all just
Maybe
wandering
we're
in
not
the woods.
supposed to be.
We're just
Maybe we'll have
visualizing a
a
path there, but there actually is no path.
True
There's no
story.
path. We're all just going to wander
Illusion.
together, and we're going to wander back here together next week too, at the same time, because we are at the end of our show.
Way to take it around. Good job.
I know it.
I know.
I want to thank our guest, Siri Ridenauer, for being such a fabulous guest on the show, and also our amazing panelists, Heather Clark, our declutter coach and consultant, Lori Ann Davis, our relationship expert, and of course, I want to thank all of you for being with us live or on the replay. We are so appreciative that you're here. Please continue to react to the show, comment on the show, and we'll be happy to continue the party with you all later in the middle of the woods while we're wandering off our path. So my name is Jessica Dugas, intuitive mentor and energy healer.
And I'm Donna Brown, holistic wellness practitioner, and this has been The Breakthrough. Join us next week when we will, I can't talk now. Okay. Join us next week when we will be joined by our amazing and talented panelist, Ms. Heather Clark will be back next week. And we will have Tara Abram, the book Shine book.
She's the other amazing author.
Thank you. I could not get that out of I couldn't get that to come out. Along with our guest, Julianne, when she'll be sharing her breakthrough moment on empowerment. That should be another really good one, too. We look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you next time. Bye for now, guys.
Bye, everybody.